Begin in the Middle East, where Hamas says it has endorsed the next phase of a Gaza peace deal. President Trump first announced a deal last night and says it includes Hamas's disarmament in the Gaza Strip, and it all comes ahead of a cabinet meeting, which is set to begin in about 1 hour from Camp David. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang is joining us now from the White House. So, Weijia, the president has announced this. We're still waiting to hear formal announcements from Prime Minister Netanyahu or the Israeli leadership, as well as senior members of Hamas, which we haven't learned yet. What are you learning about what the president says this is going to look like?
Well, the president, as you mentioned, Vlad, made this huge announcement. He said that this is a historic agreement for the complete disarmament of Hamas and all other armed groups in Gaza. A huge step, he says, toward lasting peace and security, which is true. But of course, to your point, what really matters is the response from Israel, because senior administration officials told us during a briefing that, clearly these two sides do not trust each other. And so everything hinges on whether they agree to the time frame and how this is going to work in terms of the mechanics. And even though Hamas has said it does agree to start disarming, what could trigger that for them is Israel removing its forces first. And, based on what Netanyahu has said in the past, it's hard to imagine that they would withdraw all of their forces in order to start this process of Hamas disarming. And so there are a lot more details here about how this would work, who would enforce it. But again, you have to press start first. And until we hear from Israel, that has not happened yet, Vlad.
Let's also, we'll switch gears to another war that Israel is involved in, of course, the war with Iran. So what is the latest there? We also know there's a cabinet meeting today. Are we expecting any updates?
Well, certainly I think the president wants to use this cabinet meeting, which is typically held here at the White House, but this time it's going to be at Camp David to talk more about this Hamas peace deal. I think that backdrop is important to the president, but you're right in that he's also trying to find an off-ramp for the Iran war. And so we know that he and Netanyahu met this week and both had a lot of great things to say about the progress. But we are still waiting for the official next meeting between negotiators and Iran, who doesn't agree that the talks are continuing and says that they are only talking to the mediator of Oman. And so, yes, we do expect this to be a huge topic at the cabinet meeting. But in terms of any news, so far, we don't know what that would be. Perhaps an official date on the books and perhaps Tehran agreeing that they are actually talking. But I do think the president will spend a lot of time talking about both issues today at Camp David.
All right, Weijia Jiang reporting from the White House for us. Weijia, thank you.
No problem.
For more on the state of play this morning, I want to bring in Aaron MacLean. He's a CBS national security analyst and host of the School of War podcast. Always good to talk to you, Aaron. So Israel, Weijia was just mentioning this, is already saying that they're not going to withdraw from Gaza until Hamas fully disarms. A little bit of a chicken and egg kind of thing. So what's your read on the president announcing this so broadly on social media? Did he get out ahead of Israel, or was this an intentional strategy to corner them a little bit?
The president getting out ahead of the details of a complicated diplomatic arrangement. I don't know what you could be speaking about. Look, yes, we obviously have some issues on the Israeli side of this. There are also issues on the Hamas side of this. You have at least one senior Hamas representative saying in the last 24 hours that they will not comply with the agreement until Israel withdraws completely from the Gaza Strip. So you have some high-level issues to be resolved right here at the start. And then the plan itself, what was released by the Board of Peace here just in the last few hours has been described as a roadmap. I'll just say it's a long road ahead. I mean, the basic principle is this zone-by-zone disarmament, voluntary disarmament of Hamas at the hands not of the Israelis or of the U.S., but of an international security force and then sort of these new local police who are being trained up. Neither of these forces really are constituted or exist yet. They're certainly not deployed in Gaza. So how that is going to function, how compliant Hamas is going to be, how compliant the Israelis are going to be, all questions right now.
So even the president is admitting, Aaron, that this plan will have to be rolled out in carefully calculated phases. How do you see this from just a logistical standpoint?
Well, indeed, this goes to the question of who is going to be doing the disarming. I'll draw a comparison for you, Vlad, to the process that's underway in Lebanon right now, where, as you know, there's another peace agreement and sort of carefully calibrated process that needs to proceed in stages. There, Israelis, who control substantial portions of southern Lebanon, are meant to turn territory over to the Lebanese armed forces and the sovereign government of Lebanon in stages. But those are areas taken by the Israelis from Hezbollah, so the Israelis are turning it over directly to the Lebanese government. Here in Gaza, you have Hamas turning over their own territory to this international security force and a new technocrat committee-led police force, stage by stage. The Hamas representatives saying they need Israel out before they do that. Israel saying they need Hamas to disarm before they get out. Again, it's a bumpy road ahead with lots of potholes and potential landmines on the way.
Well, and then the other thing that you have happening is the war with Iran. while this is all sort of going to go down, that doesn't seem to be wrapping up anytime soon. Do you think the effort required to make what needs to happen in Gaza is going to have any impact on the U.S. efforts in Iran? Because I was looking at the Board of Peace list of members, and it's the same cast of characters, right? It's Wickoff, it's Rubio, it's Kushner. They're doing a lot of different things right now in the Middle East.
Right, and don't forget, the prospect of peace between Russia and Ukraine. So yeah, I think you take us directly to the real resource, which is administration attention, high-level diplomatic and political attention. At the lower levels, at the level of military implementation and things like that, we don't see as large of a U.S. role mooted here, except perhaps at the leadership and coordination level. But you're absolutely right. There is a level, at a high level of attention. And really, on some level, what this Board of Peace initiative is an attempt by the administration to keep marching down the road that it started for this region at the start of the administration, which is peace in Gaza, inclusion of Saudi Arabia in the logic of the Abraham Accords, normalization between Saudi and Israel, this sort of grand scheme that was begun in the first term. And unfortunately for the administration, the extension of the war in Iran is nothing but an obstacle to all of these things. It's an enormous thorn in the side, irritant at best, real problem at worst for progress on all these other fronts.
All right, Aaron, really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Aaron.